Welcome to the Wildish Women Podcast, the podcast for women who want to discuss the real raw nitty-gritty of life, find your girl group, or just have a glass of wine with company over the internet. Brought to you from Arizona, I'm your host, Jess Holmes, and this is Wildish Women. Welcome back to the Wildish Women Podcast, and this week we're going to dive into motherhood a little bit with discussing support during, before, after pregnancy, and motherhood in general, really. So today we are joined by Kaitlin McGreyes. She is the founder of BeHerVillage. So welcome to the podcast, Kaitlin.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here, and I'm so excited to talk about gifting moms support instead of stuff, because that's what we're doing. That's what we're working on. That's the change that we're making. And it's really cool to watch it grow. And I can't wait to tell your listeners all about it.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here today. I looked into BeHerVillage, and I think that is such a cool concept. The way you have taken registry items and shifted the focus, I think that's really clever and very much needed. With that, can you tell me, where did all this come from?
Absolutely. It came from so many places, but it really came from my own experience being a mother. I had I have 3 little ones, and my oldest, who is 10 now, actually, I had my baby shower. I think so many of us do, right? It's like we're so excited. Our friends and family are so excited. There's nothing more exciting than someone having a baby. It's just like, it's the coolest thing. It's kind of wild what our bodies can do. It's this,
right.
It's this like new member of the community is being born. And I remember being so overwhelmed with love. I was crying my entire baby shower. I was so touched by everyone showing up for me. And I left, as many of us do, and we're so lucky and grateful for it, with a car full and an apartment full of baby stuff.
Right.
So that was my experience. And then I had an induction I didn't really want, or maybe need. I'm not really sure. It's all a little foggy. Turned cesarean that same. Not sure if I definitely didn't want it, but I don't think I needed it. Not sure. Kind of not the point. I ended up at home completely alone. My husband had to go back to work while I was still in the hospital, which was just
no.
Oh yeah.
Did you have complications that made you stay longer, or he just couldn't miss work?
No, there's just no paid parental leave. And he was in this program. He was in this master's program and this like special teaching program. And it was this like really intense summer program so that he could go from being a teacher assistant to a teacher, and he couldn't miss any time. But even if he could have, we didn't have any, we still don't, but we didn't have the money for him to take time off. We were a young family. It was it was paycheck to paycheck. And so I was still in the hospital. The baby was born at 5:20 a.m. on Saturday, and he went back to work Monday morning, and my mother took me home from the hospital. Rough. And I was, post C-section. So I was in an incredible amount of pain, and not an incredible amount, that's not fair, but I was in a recovery for my own body. I was trying to figure out how to breastfeed this little creature that I was so incredibly in love with. That I have to mention the love, because it sort of like tempers the rest of the horror stories that come with birth and early motherhood. The love is incrable. It helps you float along through all of this.
Yes, it does.
And I remember this like moment where my mother was on her way. She was trying to help as much as she could. And it was 3 days post C-section. And I was trying to figure out how to get the 2 of us ready for a doctor's appointment. And I couldn't figure out how to take a shower and also breastfeed a baby that would not let me put him down without hysterical crying. And the latching was painful. And I remember being naked in my nursery, in the corner of the nursery that we had like meticulously prepared, right? Like all the baby shower gifts. We had painted a beautiful mural of our, like a scene from our Costa Rican honeymoon, like on the wall. We had just put so much time and energy into the things that were surrounding us.
Right.
And I was just like sitting there, like crying, naked, bleeding from multiple places, and just being like,
that's real motherhood, though.
That was it. And I was like, oh, this isn't oh, I'm like surrounded by all this stuff people gave me and I was so grateful for it, but it's not really what I needed. And
Yeah.
that was like a real moment for me of like, oh, welcome to motherhood. And
Yep.
in that moment, it's so easy to like blame yourself, to think I'm not doing right, or I'm failing, or I'm like, I don't have what I need. But then I went on, I had another birth, another one after that. I became a doula. I supported hundreds and hundreds of families across Long Island and New York, helping them achieve the birth they wanted and get the support they need, etc. And I started seeing almost all of those people that I supported had at least one moment like that. At least
Yeah.
one moment where it's like, wait, this isn't adding up. I am alone. Where is my village? Where's my community? Everybody just says, enjoy every moment, and walks out the door, figuratively, not necessarily actually walking out the door saying that, but it
Right.
was just like, here's all this stuff. I spent hundreds of dollars of stuff on stuff for you because I want you to have a great experience, but that's not actually what we need. And so I started thinking, like, how can we shift this? The communities have the money, right? There's $12 billion a year spent every year on baby gifts in this country. So that's money that's spent on gifts, not on baby stuff, not by the parents. And so these families and communities have money and they are willing to spend it on our mothers because we value mothers, because we love our mothers, because we want to uplift them. But we're being sort of tricked a little bit by these big box stores and these retailers and these baby gear companies to like, that if we buy this gear, it will make those moments better. And there's just a real disconnect there for me. And I think for many, many, many people who have been through it. And so that's where this all kind of came from. It's like, wait, there's something happening here where we're talking about the wrong things and we're buying the wrong things. But if you go, before BeHerVillage existed, if you go to baby registries, there's nothing, and still to this day, nothing for the mother. It's all baby gear. And it's like, well, wait, but how do I care for this baby? That bouncer, that rocker, that vibrating chair, all these pacifiers and things. It's, yes, we need some of them, sure. But is that the thing that we really need? No, we need somebody telling us it's going to be okay, showing us how to live our lives with the baby, caring for us so that we can care for our little one. And that really was the jumping off point for this. And it's been so cool to test it out, right? To like build it and put it out there and be like, is anyone going to register? Oh, good. People are registering. Is anyone going to buy this gift? Oh, people are buying. And now we have over $78,000 have been funded, gifted on BeHerVillage. And so we're at this point where we have like, we've tested it and people are in, right? And so now it's just a matter of spreading it, and people are talking about it and making this really the movement that it deserves to be.
Right. Well, it's interesting too, the focus, because you don't think of it, especially as a new mom, you don't know any better, I would say, either. You're just like, yeah, I need all these things because people say I need all these things. And then you get all these things and it's like, oh, actually, I need totally different things
Yep.
than physical stuff. And like, I know with my first, I have 3 boys, and with my first, we got tons and tons of stuff. And then slowly, as I had another kid, I was like, we don't need all that stuff. And then when I had my last kid, it's like, okay, we really don't need all this stuff. And I actually wanted to consider a doula, but then I was like, oh, well, I know I'm having a planned C-section. So what can a doula do for me? And I did not know all the services that doulas offer. And if I had, I really think I would have taken advantage of that, because it's so much work, especially, like in your case where your partner had to go back to work immediately. Mine did not. He had paternity leave. Though it was unpaid, he had it.
Right.
But it still wasn't enough,
quite frankly, you still need the village. Like, that's why there's a village. And I love that sort of thinking about a doula. There is a total misconception that only certain types of people need support. Like, only if you're going unmedicated, only if you want a vaginal birth. And it's like, no. This is all about feeling empowered, about being centered in the whole experience, about being cared for. And it takes a team of people to care for mothers before, during, and after the birth. 100%. Yeah. I mean, me as a doula, that was my entire approach, right? Like I had people that were planning C-sections, that were planning epidurals, that were hiring us. And in our initial, like before they hired us, because we had a team, saying, I want a C-section, like, how can you guys support us? And we would talk about it, because it's really not about how the baby comes out. It's really not about that at all. It's about how you feel in those moments. Are you feeling like your team is caring for you? Are you feeling like you have choices? Are you feeling like you understand them? You know, and then there's the postpartum doula aspect, someone to come. And I like to call them like fairy godmothers. They come and they just make everything feel better. It's like someone just sweeps in with no judgment, no baggage, no nothing. It just comes and like feeds you and cleans up a little bit and shows you how to latch or whatever your feeding goals are, and like can validate and normalize your experience. There's so much power to that. And that's something that the village used to do, right? That's like the part of the aspect that we're missing, is that people, the women in our community, would come in and care for us during pregnancy, during our labor, and in the postpartum. They would care for our older kids. They would feed us. They would show us what to do. And we would also be seeing that throughout our lives, even when we weren't in that motherhood time. And so the village looks a little different now. Now it looks like doulas and lactation consultants and pelvic floor providers and midwives. And, you know, there's a difference to the team. We have labels and professions, but that knowledge still exists and still needs to be passed down from generation to generation.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like you said, same for me. The misconception that I needed to have a vaginal birth to have a doula, because I didn't know all the things that doulas do, to be honest, until it was too late. You know, after I had my third. And I was like, wait a minute, doulas will cook and they'll clean and they'll help out with stuff? Like, I had no idea. So, being that you've been a doula before, what all have you done for other mothers?
I mean, so there's two main types of doulas. There's a birth doula and there's postpartum doulas. So I did one shift as a postpartum doula. And then I realized that I actually needed a postpartum doula, and I didn't need to be a postpartum doula. But postpartum doulas are sort of like those fairy godmothers. They come in after the birth and they are making sure that you're fed. They're making sure that if you're bottle feeding or pumping, that parts are clean. They're making sure the laundry is moved along. They're checking in on you. I mean, this is something that I don't think this is what they're advertising, but like our medical system monitors you, you know, monthly and then biweekly and then weekly and then every minute that you're in the hospital. They monitor you so closely. And as soon as that baby is out, you get like 4 blood pressure checks and like a bleeding check, and you're sent on your way. And once you leave the hospital, that's it. You don't have eyes on you, any medically trained eyes on you, or quite frankly, anything outside your immediate family for 6 weeks. And I don't want to bring this in, but I feel like we need to address sort of the elephant in the room, why we're all so activated about this topic, is that women are dying in childbirth and surrounding childbirth. And we're dying at higher rates than any other country, and it's increasing each year. And I was actually really surprised to learn this, but the majority of those deaths are happening between leaving the hospital and that 6-week visit. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. And it kind of shocked me and also didn't surprise me at all, because, you know, we're just kind of sending people home without eyes on us. And we're the only country in the world, the only developed country in the world that doesn't have guaranteed in-home postpartum care. Every other country in the world gives their mothers a health visitor, a nurse, a doula, a midwife in their home, checking on them and the baby. And we're just not doing that here. And so postpartum doulas do a lot of incredible things, but they are also not medically trained, but they are eyes on. They know if something's off. They know if there's a red flag, right? Like they can help you figure that out. So postpartum doulas are something that we really need to start removing the stigma from, because people have this like, oh, she got a baby nurse. Oh, you know, there's this like, oh, so bougie. And it's like, no, it's not bougie. That's actually basic. That's literally what every other mother in the world gets. They get care in their homes, and we should be getting that too. And then as doulas, as birth doulas, we are doing so much. So I think there's like, I'd love to dispel that sort of misconception about we're only for home birth, we're only for natural birth, quote unquote natural birth. Because the way that I approach doula work, and I think so many of us do, is it's not really about how the baby comes out. It's not about your choices and your medical interventions, because there's so much of that we can't control. There's a little bit of it we can control by building out the right team, but there's so much that we can't. And it's really about, at the end of the day, did you feel like you were in charge? Did you feel like you had the information you needed to even understand there was a decision to be made? Because so many of the decisions that can be made during your pregnancy and prenatal care and during your care at the hospital or birth center is not presented to you as a choice. It's presented as go and do this, or we're going to do this, or now you have to do this.
I've never thought about it in that aspect because, you know, like I said, your first time around, you don't know any better. You just trust what you're being told to do, essentially. And I never thought about a doula just being an advocate for you, if nothing else. Like that's, I don't know why I've never thought of that. So that's eye-opening to know.
I love that. Well, you know, because that's not the vision of doulas. We have this vision of doulas as like, you know, sage burning crystal, which I like. I try not to say that with like too much disdain, because cool. Like you want to do herbal medicine. I actually really want to become an herbalist at some point, but you want to burn sage and like be the spiritual, like crystal doula. Cool. That's amazing and needed. But there's also just like actual advocacy tools of like teaching people how to find their truth, how to feel connected to like their most powerful selves. And helping them navigate the maternal health care system. It's one of those things too, where like, how many babies are we really having? I have 3 also. But like, that's kind of a lot for around here. Most of the people I know have 3 or less, or maybe 4, but you don't have all that many opportunities to learn how to navigate the system. And the way it's stacked is once you have one C-section, many, if not most providers will say, okay, now once a C-section, always a C-section. It's like, I was able, luckily, to have a VBAC and a home birth after my C-section, but it is a steep learning curve, you know, like you have that one chance to try and get a vaginal birth. Otherwise you're forever marked. And so the stakes are really high, and birth doulas, in addition to like, we do all that emotional, wonderful, you know, and labor support and positions and helping you. And if pain-free.
I was going to say, when I think of a doula, I think like initially, before I learned more about doulas, I think of like Lamaze class, you know, and having that person helping you breathe and do stuff like that. I didn't realize that there was so much more entailed, you know, in what they can do.
Yes. You know, one of my favorite, I think it was Pamela England. She said having a doula, or something, I'm not going to get it exactly right, but my favorite sort of comparison is having a doula is, or not having a doula is like climbing Mount Everest without a Sherpa. Like your partner is great, and of course you need them. And like doulas actually support the entire family unit. It's not just there for the birthing person. But why would you go up Mount Everest and try to navigate all of the things when you've never been there before? And it's this enormous task when you can hire a Sherpa who's been up there and back many times and can help you get through. You're still going to do the work yourself, but you're going to have someone to help you out. And that, I feel like doula work, birth doula work is that. It's that Sherpa work. It's let me help you understand your choices. Let me help you navigate this. And you can find the right path for you up that mountain and back.
No, I love that idea of it, because same with me. I had the same situation. My first was an emergency C-section, which I felt also was unnecessary. And I had a big gap between my first 2. I have, they're 5.5 years apart. And I learned so much in that 5.5 years that I was like, wait a minute. Like none of that had to happen the way it did. And I wish I would have known that, or had somebody, you know, there to be like, hey, you know, like you say, are you comfortable with that decision? Do you like that choice? Because with my second, I tried to have a VBAC, and there were other medical things that came up that stopped that from happening. But I did have my mind set on it. And even my OBGYN was trying to convince me not to do it. Because like you said, once you do one, you're labeled that way. And I did love her. And I'm very much, I tried to ride the line on science and then like natural healing as well. So I'm always open to hear opinions and things like that. But I knew in my mind, I'm like, I was dead set on trying to have a VBAC. But like I said, it didn't work out. But just having someone there that could have also advocated for me, I think would have made a world of difference from my first one on. It would have changed all of my births, I think.
Yes, and it really just removes the question of like, what if? That's a game that we end up playing when we don't feel like we were informed correctly or like in charge. I have supported many people who have ended up having C-sections.
Yeah.
But for most of them, when they're having the support of me or someone on my team, they have at every single point, they have had the skill set to ask questions, to know when to ask questions, to have full-blown conversations with their providers. And I'm talking about the things that don't feel like big things, right? Because it feels like, oh, we're going to have to talk about whether we're getting Pitocin. Like, well, hold on. What about whether you want that vaginal exam? Like the ones that they tell you are standard. What about getting in the bed? What about being monitored? What about getting an IV put in? Those are all things that they tell you have to do, that it's just not true. You don't actually have to do anything, like literally at all. You don't, it's not jail, right? Like you are hiring them for their services. And that's one of the things I like to work on is mindset, because when we go in thinking we have to follow the rules and there's like hospital policy, right? We all hear about hospital policy.
Yeah.
Guess who hospital policy applies to? It applies to hospital staff.
Yeah.
It applies to privileged providers that are working at the hospital and have the right to work there. That's it. It does not apply to you. When you are a patient, you have a patient bill of rights. I'm sure it's different for every state, but in New York State, I would print it out for my clients and I would highlight numbers, definitely number 11. I'm trying to think. I think it's 911, but it's the right to informed consent and it's the right to informed refusal. You have the right to all of the information that your team can give you, and you have the right to refuse literally anything. And when we know that, it really shifts how we go into our birth. And what I like to say to people, kind of circling back to the money issue, right? Because I think money is something we all have emotional ties to and can sort of understand how it works and how it feels to spend it, and where we spend it on is really important. I like to tell people that are having a hard time sort of shifting into their power as they approach their birth, go into your hospital birth. And when you speak to each person, or especially like your doctor or your labor nurse, imagine handing them $30,000 cash from your pocket. Hand it to them, and then expect the level of care that comes along with a $30,000 spend. Because if you went to a hotel, or if you spent $30,000 cash at really any business that's coming from your pocket, you would expect the highest quality care. You would expect utmost respect. You would expect to be a valued customer, and you wouldn't spend your money there otherwise. And the truth of it is that hospital is getting $30,000 at least from your insurance, at least. We don't feel it, but we are the consumer, and we can walk in knowing that we're the consumer and demanding the highest quality medical care that we're paying for. And when we start shifting into that, it helps us. And, it's different for everybody, right? That might not resonate with somebody. I remember a client of mine was preparing for a planned cesarean birth, and she was really feeling so anxious. I saw her the night before the birth, and she was, that when anxiety, it just makes you feel so small and unsure and unsteady. And I looked at her and I was like, "You're an attorney, right?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay, why don't we put your attorney hat on? Why don't you like feel what it's like to be an attorney as you walk into that birth? Not to call her profession in, but to call her power in." And the next day when I arrived at the hospital and I met her before she went back in, she had, like, I'm telling you, this stack of papers, all the plans. She was checking things off. She was talking to the staff in this way where she was the authority and they were working with her. And it was the coolest thing to see her shift from that place into finding her power. It was amazing.
Yeah. Well, I never would have thought of it as like exactly what you said. You're handing over $30,000+ to someone. Like, what would you expect in return for their services? You should be, treated the way that they should treat you and you should be listened to and they should follow your wishes. I've never thought of it that way. So that's a good way to think of it. Like you said, money. It's a great way to visualize it. Are you willing to give this person $30,000
Right.
for the care they're giving you? And if not, walk away. I mean,
Exactly.
obviously, if you're in labor, it might be a bit different, but
well, the trick is work with a doula and take a childbirth class so that you can figure that out before labor, because there are so many ways to figure this out before you actually get into the L&D room. And that's what your team can do for you and help you figure out prenatally. That's the advocacy that happens before the birth. And I always tell people the work of labor happens in pregnancy. So it's not about like writing the best birth plan and walking into a hospital waving it around with a team who's never heard of it before. It's about forming that birth plan and bringing it to every appointment and navigating it and working with them. And if you're feeling like red flags come up, whether it's in your gut or like actual, they're telling you that it's not going to work, you go bring that plan to another practitioner and you find the people that are going to help you achieve your goals. And all of that work helps us release and let our vulnerability show when we're in labor, which is honestly, it's part of labor. It's the unfolding. We have to feel safe to labor. We're mammals. We have to feel safe to labor. And so we can't be coming into our hospital ready for a fight. We have to really be in our power and in a place where we feel safe to let go a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, like listening to all of this, I wish I, would have, I don't know, I guess be braver in making decisions. And then like, you have your plan. And then when it comes down to it, just having somebody there to make sure that it's followed, because I think that definitely I had like flexible plans. I didn't have like set exactly what I wanted except for a couple things. And a lot of those things were just brushed off in the moment,
Yes.
Like with my youngest, I wanted to do skin to skin immediately after he was pulled out, even though it was a C-section. And I was being denied that, and then I was giving excuses why that couldn't happen, even though his APGAR was fine, nothing, there were no issues. You know what I mean?
I do.
So there's like different things like that, just to have that advocate in your corner during everything, even if you did everything right, would just be amazing support. And I did look at, like I said, I did look at BeHerVillage. I looked at your site and I love to read everybody's about me and dig in and everything. And one of the things that stuck out for me that I really, really loved, and I know we already talked about it sort of, was support, not stuff. Because support makes such a difference regardless of all the stuff you have. And I love the view of that. So with BeHerVillage and the way you do your registry, what services are provided on the registry that someone could add?
It's a great question. So we have a whole registry guide where you can search for your team and you can find people nearby you. And if you can't find people nearby, you can book a consult and we will find people near you. So we are helping. We're making it like so easy. You don't have to know any of this stuff, right? You don't have to know what a doula is. You don't have to know what lactation consultants and pelvic floor providers and, prenatal yoga and chiropractor and acupuncture. And these are all some of the things that we have on our site.
No, that's good to know.
But you don't need to know any of it. We're making it so easy. So it's like when you get onto BeHerVillage, you're just taken care of. You can just reach out to our team. We will set you up with everything you need. And the registry consults are with me. Like you are getting 30 minutes with me. I will do the research. I will find people that I think would fit for you. I will hear you out. And it's an ongoing thing. Like the 30-minute consult is sort of like the jumping off point for our relationship. But we want you to not have to shop by spending hours and hours and hours. This was a really important thing for me. It's like right now, without BeHerVillage, if you want to go find your support team, number one, you have to figure out what is even available, which people don't even know. I didn't know postpartum doulas were a thing until after I had my second. So it's like, so it's number one, that. So you can go to our registry guide. You can see all the different types of support providers, mental health care, yoga, fitness, coaching, doulas, photographers, lactation consultants, pelvic floor providers. I'm sure I'm missing a few, but there's so many that's like, it's hard to get them all. You don't have to know what all those things are. You can go and you can find them. And then we have practitioners in your area. So you get matched up with people in your area. Soon we're going to be adding some virtual options of people like across the country where you can, there's nobody in your area, or if you're looking for something where you don't have to go in person, we're going to have that as well. But the big thing is that we require every single service that's added, every single practitioner, every birth worker, every childbirth educator, to put a price on their service, because the current situation is that you have to figure out what's out there. You have to find one that might be good in your area. And then you have to like call them, email them, meet with them, shop on all these websites to try and figure out what the pricing is. And it's an enormous burden. It just is. And we're doing so much already as moms to be and moms that are of little ones, that I wanted to take the burden off of people looking for support. And so we have everything in one place, all the prices. And if you're not seeing what you're looking for, and even if you are, quite frankly, our team and me will make sure that you get your entire registry built and set up. Or quite frankly, if you've already had your baby and you're not interested in a registry, we'll still just help you find a lactation consultant. We'll help you find a pelvic floor provider. But we're a resource for moms and parents to find exactly what they need. So that's what we're working on. It's just so cool to see the whole support team, and it's prenatal, it's during your birth, and it's in the postpartum. The other thing I want to mention is that if there's something on our registry that you're not seeing, like if you knew that you wanted, I don't know, like a belly binding experience and you're not seeing that, you can add anything you want to your registry. So you can just type in, there's a way to create a custom registry listing where you can type in, I want $100 towards custom belly binding because of, XYZ, because I want the support and I'd like to be healed and that sort of thing. And then your friends and family can gift you money towards that service. So there's really no limit to the support. We offer an enormous amount of types of services and practitioners. We have over 1,100 practitioners on our site across the country. But if you're not seeing what you want, you just add the team that you're looking for and that you have lined up already.
Awesome. So how does that work with finding like a provider who would take insurance? How does that go together?
Well, so that's part of this issue, is that most of these practitioners, not all of them, because there's a handful here and there, most of them are not covered by insurance. And that's why BeHerVillage exists.
Okay. Okay. That's what I was wondering. I'm like, if you have insurance, I know that like doulas and lots of different things are not covered by insurance, which is ridiculous in itself. Yes. But yeah, I was just curious if you had insurance, how those would play together.
Yeah, so if you have insurance that covers some of these things, and our providers, when they create their listing, they say if they take insurance or not. I want to just clarify something though. This is a cash gift registry that's cash with the intention of support. So when someone gifts you $100 towards your lactation visit, it doesn't go to the lactation consultant. It goes to you. So you get the funds that you need to pay for your support team. We wanted to make sure that it stayed really flexible, because motherhood, as we all know, is extremely unpredictable, and you really don't know what you're going to need until you need it. So we wanted to make sure that it wasn't locked in, that people's gifts, like let's say you decided not to breastfeed, or let's say breastfeeding went beautifully and you didn't need a lactation consultant, but you got $300 towards a visit. I didn't want it to be where that money was then lost. I wanted it to be that you have the absolute flexibility, the money in your pocket to go spend it on what you need. And your friends and family are able to, rather than just giving you cash and it all feels a little bit awkward, they can say, that's real. People are like, well, why should I use your registry when I could just ask for cash? I'm like, you go right ahead. You ask for cash.
I know.
It's really weird to ask for cash. It just feels
like
uncomfortable.
You gotta be kind of ballsy or confident to be like, hey, can I get $300 for something?
Exactly. But when you say, hey, this is the thing I want, and this is why, and we write it where you can have it, why I want this. And the people that see that and they understand, like, oh, this is the support. We have a whole video on your public facing registry, like the one that your friends and family will see. Yeah. There's a video, there's a tab with why BeHerVillage. And there's a video that we made of 3 people, one who actually works for us. She does all of our reels. And she's also like one of my very best friends. She, it's funny, like, oh, she's our employee now. She's my friend and she's awesome. And she happens to work with us. She didn't have BeHerVillage. So she tells her story of returning, her baby blender or something to go pay for her lactation visit, and like being,
Oh,
freshly postpartum and like returning gifts, which felt awful. And then we have
yeah.
a story of a mom who had BeHerVillage, and she, her baby had a tongue tie, and she had the funds for the lactation consultant, number one. She had the funds to pay for the tongue tie clip, which was, that's an
Yeah.
unexpected out of pocket cost. And her
Right.
and her daughter have a beautiful breastfeeding relationship. And it's like, wow, this is really impactful. So those are the videos that we're showing the gift buyers. So we're doing so much more than just helping someone give cash. It's really about like the intention. It's like, I want to support
Right.
you and I have money to spend on that. So instead of buying a onesie or some plastic baby gear that may or may not help, but like not as much as one of these support providers, we're making it really easy for them
Oh,
to
yeah.
understand the value.
I put up a question in our Arizona group and I asked, what's one thing you wish you had after having a baby? And not one person listed an item like baby
What?
gear. Not
That's
one person.
amazing. Oh my
Every
gosh.
single person said they wish they had pre-made meals or a nesting party, a
Oh,
doula. Not one thing was an item. So
wow.
I think that speaks volumes. And we have there's over 30 comments of people
Wow.
stating and agreeing and all of that to, it's not things. Like you said, it's not stuff.
It's
People want
not.
support. And a couple people even say that. They're like, I wish I had a village that would have helped me.
Oh, I
And
love that.
I 100% agree. I've never had a village the whole time. So
Mhm.
to have a registry like this, to be able to have people help contribute to services I did actually need is just amazing. And I love the concept of it. It's so
Mhm.
unique and it's really thinking out of the United States healthcare box.
Yes,
you
thank
know?
you. I love that. We found something that unites us, no matter where
Yeah.
we're from or who we are or what our background is. It is being adopted across the country because everybody knows moms need support. There just hasn't been a clear path to gifting support so far. And it's really cool to see that sort of groundswell. And I didn't see that thread in your group, but oh my goodness, that makes me it makes me so sad and so happy, actually. It makes me
Right.
sad that that wasn't
Sad
what they
to
had.
know that so many feel that way, but happy because you
You're doing
found
it.
a hole. You
Yes.
found a need that needs to be filled, and you're doing a great job, it seems,
Thank
at
you.
filling it,
Thank you.
'cause we're not planning to have any more now. We did try for a fourth for a while, but
Mm,
we called it quits. So, just to have had this option when I did have my other 3 though, I can't imagine how, like, life-changing that would have been for me because not having the support, I think, also led to mental health issues with postpartum depression and anger and rage and all of that. And
mhm.
I think having that support system could help offset those reactions to not having a support, if that makes sense.
Oh, 1000%. Our perinatal mood and anxiety disorder issue slash epidemic, whatever you want to call it in our country,
Yeah.
is so infuriating to me. I'm sorry, I can't be PC about this, but it's so ridiculous because it's not like, oh, women are having mood disorders and anxiety and rage and depression and psychosis. And what do we ever do about it? It's like, we know exactly what to do. We know
Yeah.
exactly what to do. We know it's the studies show when you have support in the whole perinatal experience, prenatal and postpartum. When you have support, you have less PMADs. It's just
Yeah.
science. Hashtag science. Like it's just, but
Yeah.
it's so frustrating though to like sort of know that and to also look at a country that spends $12 billion on baby gear while mothers are floundering. This sort of thing, it's hard to do this day in and day out. This is just sort of like pulling back the veil on entrepreneurship. It's hard to do this day in and day out. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
conversations like these that fuel me because I know we need it. I've lived this. I
Yeah.
know we need it. And I see the funds getting gifted and I see the support getting gotten by people, but man,
Right.
it needs to be the thing, right? And it's conversations like these that will spark that for other people that are listening.
Absolutely. And I hope we have a whole pregnancy group and motherhood group as well. It's smaller and growing.
Mm,
It's very new, but even still, I hope many of them are able to listen to this and check out BeHerVillage
Yay.
and realize how much of a difference it is, just based on your experience and my experience and your best friend, that said just her experience of returning something so that she could have a service like this. I never would have thought of doing something like that, but what else could you do? If you didn't have the money, that's an easy way to make it happen.
Right.
As sad or guilty as you may feel,
Yeah.
like she needed the service more,
She needed the service more. And I think I want to just like sort of underline, I don't think gift buyers are at fault here. Like, I don't think it's that gift buyers are buying the wrong things. I think it's gift buyers I think we all kind of know when we go on a registry, a regular baby stuff registry, we kind of know this isn't what they need, like, yeah, it might be a little helpful, but we know what they really need. And so I like to imagine that whoever bought her the thing she returned wanted her to have a great experience feeding her baby. And it turns out she needed it for the lactation support, not necessarily for blended baby food. I think it's sort of refreshing. Some people have like questioned like support, not stuff. How could you not have any stuff? And I'm like, you know what? People know where to find stuff. I'm just talking about support because they don't know where to find that. And so we're going to be really single focused on getting people the support they need. Yeah.
100%. I agree, because even if I knew I needed to talk to someone or I needed some kind of therapy or anything, I wouldn't know where to look. And I think your registry kind of has that anonymous feel to it, to where you're a complete stranger. There's no judgment. If you feel you need like mental health services, there's no judgment in that. You're talking to a stranger. They will help you find someone,
Absolutely.
or a lactation consultant if you are feeling insecure about breastfeeding, and you don't feel comfortable talking to someone about it. Like, I think that is just an easy way to find an option without discussing it with someone because you're uncomfortable with the situation.
Yes, exactly. It is totally a judgment-free zone. We're here to make sure people get the support they need. And you just sort of like figuratively step into BeHerVillage and we'll take care of you from there. That's the whole idea. So that there's no judgment, there's no shame. BeHerVillage is not this big conglomerate or corporation. We are literally a group of moms and birth workers who have been there. And we want people to lean on us and use us to build their support teams and get the funds to pay for them.
Yeah, that's fantastic. For anybody who's in our group that maybe would want to join as a service provider, how would they go about that?
Oh, that's a great question. So when you go to BeHerVillage.com, you'll see on the top right businesses, and there's a whole page of information about what we offer and how to get involved. And it's free to sign up, so you can list your service. You get a free profile. There's upgrade options, but it's free. We want everybody to come and list their services and be found by families in their areas.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. This is hopefully going to be very beneficial for all of our mothers and mothers to be in the group. And with that, is there one last piece of advice, anything you could say to anyone who needs these type of services?
Yes, I would say that you deserve this, that we need to reframe this from I can do this by myself. You don't have to do this by yourself. You deserve to feel good at every single step of this motherhood journey. And whether you use BeHerVillage or not, just remember that you deserve to feel good and your baby deserves a parent that feels good.
That's amazing. That is such a super powerful thing to say, that you deserve it, because I think many don't look at it that way.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for having me. This is amazing. I appreciate you and your community that you've built, and for opening up so that I can come in and share. This has felt really good for me. This was like my self-care for today.
Oh, good. Well, I hope that maybe we can meet back up a year from now and talk about all the growth and experience and everything that's changed for you
and
BeHerVillage, because I think this could definitely go somewhere.
Awesome.
And you're doing a great job at it already.
Thank you so much. I would love that.
Thank you so much again, Kaitlin, for being on the podcast this week. And to any of you who really resonated with this episode and would like more information, you can find all the BeHerVillage links below. You can reach out to Kaitlin herself. Anything you need, shoot us questions. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to today's Wildish Women Podcast. If If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and review us. Until next time, stay wildish.